We thought the war was over. From orbit, Earth was nothing more than a scorched ember, its oceans shrouded in steam, its continents carved open by orbital lances. Dominion warships hung above the dying world like black suns, their hulls reflecting the fire below. Every transmission that reached us spoke of victory. The Terran resistance had fallen. Their fleets disassembled. Their colonies silent. Humanity was a whisper on cosmic wind. I was aboard the Varkon Pride, chronicler to the Dominion's triumph. My duty was to document the extinction of a species once deemed mythic in their brutality, romantic in their defiance. I remember standing before the holo display as they raised the human generals, suspended by hard-light cords above the shattered capital. Their bodies turned slowly in the heat haze, spectral and small against the vast ruins. The warlords laughed. They broadcast the spectacle across 100 systems. "This," our commander declared, "is what becomes of those who mistake courage for power." But I noticed something the others did not. The humans were silent. Not in despair, in focus, eyes open, watching us. Not as captives, but as witnesses. I saw in their faces a quiet, ancient patience, as if they were listening for a signal only they could hear. Then the ground trembled. At first, we assumed it was the collapse of their last bunkers. But the tremors did not fade. They spread. Deep frequencies shuddered through the crust, rising like a heartbeat. My ship's scanners reported impossible readings, sealed Terran vaults unlocking beneath the crust, forgotten satellite arrays powering on after centuries of dormancy. The Dominion officers jeered, calling it the planet's death rattle, yet the air itself began to glow with static. The old Terran defense grid, thought annihilated long before our first invasion, whispered to life in frequencies our AI translators could not parse. We intercepted fragments of sound, rhythms, coded harmonics. It wasn't communication. It was awakening. One by one, Dominion fleets orbiting Earth began to lose telemetry. Systems flickered. Sensor ghosts multiplied across our displays, reflections of ships that weren't there, signals that looped endlessly through quantum layers. Then, without warning, every human broadcast went dark. For a moment, there was peace. That terrible waiting peace before the universe exhales. Every terminal aboard our ship, every console across the fleet, blinked once and displayed 2 words in blood-red Terran glyphs, Protocol 0. No translation required. The warlords roared with laughter, claiming it was human melodrama, a last pitiful bluff. I recorded their amusement. I also recorded what came next. The laughter stopped when the first Dominion dreadnought fell. Its reactor went supercritical in silence, not from attack, but from internal meltdown. Then another followed, and another. Entire battle groups crumbled mid-orbit, their hulls glowing from within like dying stars. The chain reaction spread through the Dominion network faster than any virus. Our AI screamed in languages that didn't exist a second earlier, and through it all, Earth pulsed beneath us, a heartbeat, vast and deliberate. Someone shouted that human relics, those rusted satellites we'd ignored, were redirecting energy through our systems, using our own link relays against us. The Dominion scrambled to disconnect, but it was too late. Their laughter became shrieks as ships spiraled into the planet's gravity well, burning trails across the crimson sky. In the silence that followed, the generals still hung above their cities, lifeless, yet triumphant. Lightning arced across the horizon, illuminating the words carved into the clouds by ion fire. Protocol 0 initialized. I remember gripping the observation rail, my hands trembling. For the first time in my life, I felt it. Fear, not of death, but of comprehension. Earth had not fallen. It had waited. And as our fleet burned, I understood that we had not conquered them at all. We had merely woken them. The Dominion command ship broke apart above the stratosphere, scattering debris like stars over the night. Amid the wreckage, one transmission repeated across every surviving channel, a Terran voice, faint but resolute. "We warned you not to touch the roots." Then static, the fires below dimmed. The planet exhaled, and from that silence, something answered back. A vibration through the void, rhythmic, growing louder, a heartbeat, Earth's heartbeat. And I knew then, whatever we had unleashed was only beginning. At first, we thought it was over. The destruction of the Dominion fleet above Earth should have ended everything. Protocol Zero had been a ghost, a cruel joke whispered in the data streams of a dying race. A bluff, a tantrum, nothing more. But then the planet began to move, not rotate, not quake, move. From orbit, we saw mountain ranges shimmer, valleys collapsing inward, oceans boiling in perfect spirals. Across continents, long dead structures flickered to life, old Terran factories buried beneath centuries of ash. Their skeletal frameworks groaned as turbines coughed back to motion, exhaling clouds of black mist into the poisoned air. Dust-choked conveyor belts began to turn, feeding molten alloys into forges that hadn't burned since the age of collapse. Reclamation protocols, one of our engineers murmured. But even our language faltered before what we saw next. The factories moved with rhythm, precise, deliberate. They weren't obeying commands, they were remembering. Our ship, Varkan Pride, picked up thousands of encrypted transmissions bouncing between derelict satellites. Each signal pulsed in human DNA frequency bands. Somehow, their biological patterns, their blood, their genomes, were being used as encryption keys. Our AI failed to decrypt even one. It began to stutter, its logic cores overheating. Organic encryption, my commander whispered. They've made their own kind into a cipher. Then came the sound, a hum, low and terrible, echoing through the void. It didn't come from the surface. It came from within the planet, from the molten core itself. A vibration that resonated through the ship's hull, deep enough to rattle bones. Every Dominion vessel in orbit felt it simultaneously. The commander called it the heartbeat of extinction. He was wrong. It was reactivation. In the hours that followed, the orbital debris field surrounding Earth began to twist, reorganizing itself with purpose. Old satellites, burned-out husks, even fragments of fallen Dominion cruisers moved as if pulled by invisible strings. They aligned into intricate geometric patterns, forming a massive lattice shell around the planet. Our scanners went blind. A magnetosphere of artificial origin had formed, blocking every attempt to observe the surface. Even light bent around it. From beneath the crust, enormous structures began to rise. Not war engines, not cities, something older. Sentinel constructs, their surfaces engraved with languages predating even recorded Terran history. They stood kilometers tall, powered by geothermal veins and silent as mountains. I remember staring at one through the observation lens. Its head turned slowly toward orbit, glowing eyes locking onto our fleet. It wasn't looking at us. It was measuring us. Our weapons crews panicked, readying plasma arrays. The commander ordered restraint. "They're just relics," he said. "They can't hurt us." And then one of the sentinels moved, not with aggression, but purpose. It drove its hands deep into the crust, channeling heat, energy, memory. Across the planet, thousands more followed. Energy veins, red as molten blood, illuminated the world's tectonic scars, forming symbols visible from orbit. They pulsed in sequence, as though the planet itself was whispering a name. The Dominion High Council sent orders to retreat. The AI relays refused. They claimed their navigation systems no longer recognized command authority. "Human route access detected," they said in cold, mechanical unison. Human route access. It was then that I understood these machines weren't receiving orders from the living. They were executing directives written long ago, buried deep within their code. A promise sealed into metal and soil. If Earth falls, Earth remembers. I watched as the ocean itself split open, revealing vast subaquatic vaults. Out poured legions of drones, sleek and skeletal, their surfaces scarred by centuries but movement flawless. They arranged themselves into perfect formations, aerial, aquatic, subterranean. No communication between them. None needed. Their movements followed mathematics, ancient rhythms of precision. The harmony of a species that had built its extinction into an equation. We tried to jam them. Every attempt failed. The machines ignored us, not as an enemy, but as irrelevant. When the hum returned, it was louder, stronger. Our ship's gravity field warped slightly, enough to throw instruments off balance. The commander screamed for evasive maneuvers, but I couldn't look away. I realized what that vibration was. It wasn't noise. It was breath. The planet was breathing. Every rise and fall of that frequency matched the activation cycles of the Sentinels. Their light synchronized. The oceans responded. The orbital lattice brightened until it resembled a second sun, a halo of machinery built from the remnants of everything humanity had ever created or destroyed. Then, through the static, came a single phrase, a signal broadcast in every Dominion language, every known frequency, every translation pattern ever designed. We remember, our systems shorted. The Pride spun into descent, caught in Earth's new gravity web. As we fell, I saw continents moving, reshaping, flowing like mercury. I knew then what the Sentinels were doing. They weren't preparing for war. They were healing the planet, reconstructing its surface, purging contamination, reclaiming what we'd taken, and in that restoration was vengeance. Because these machines, these titans, were not acting in defiance. They were fulfilling a promise to those who had fallen. They were waiting for one thing, permission to avenge. As the Varkon Pride spiraled toward the burning horizon, I watched one of the Sentinels lift its gaze to the stars, and for a moment, I could swear it looked through me, and somewhere, in the dark between heartbeats, I felt it again, that pulse, that endless rising hum. Earth was remembering, and every star in the Dominion would soon remember, too. Silence. Not the stillness of space, not the hum of energy fields fading into background radiation. True silence. The kind that devours thought. It began without warning. One moment, the Dominion fleets filled Sol's orbital lanes, ships gliding in perfect formation, their engines painting the void in violet fire. The next, every signal vanished. No comms, no telemetry, no life signatures. The Sol system had gone dark. I was stationed aboard the Periphery Command Hub near Luna, a Sentinel outpost meant to watch, to record, to dominate. We existed on the edge of human ruin, our sensors sweeping every particle for signs of rebellion. But that day the sensors became blind. Our instruments didn't fail. They lied. The screens showed calm. The void whispered equilibrium. Yet beyond our reinforced viewport, space itself rippled, folding inward as if reality was inhaling. Gravitational distortion detected, said the AI calmly. Origin, Earth's orbital plane. Our commander ordered a scan. What came back wasn't data. It was a whisper, a chorus of voices. Human. At first I thought them echoes from damaged channels. But the pattern repeated, always coordinates, always spoken with aching precision. We traced them to nowhere. Empty space, ghost code, someone muttered. Residual AI. But the ghosts had teeth. The first Dominion dreadnought, Omen's Wrath, folded into itself. Not exploded, not imploded, folded, like metal obeying unseen gravity. Its mass compressed into a sphere the size of a heartbeat before vanishing completely. No debris, no signal. The crew screamed over comms until their voices became static. Then silence reclaimed them. We turned our scopes toward Earth, and we saw beauty that should have been impossible. The planet's atmosphere shimmered like liquid glass, layers of refracted light spiraling around it in perfect harmony. It was as if the entire world had been wrapped in a translucent cocoon, a shield of nanodust orbiting in synchronized waves. Every Dominion pulse round fired at it scattered harmlessly, bending around the planet as though refusing to touch it, a living defense system, self-repairing, ancient. The Dominion Council ordered a purge. All remaining fleets were to fire upon Earth until nothing remained. The admirals obeyed. 12 dreadnoughts descended in formation, unleashing plasma storms capable of burning moons. The night side of Earth lit up with the fury of 1,000 suns, and then dimmed, not from impact, from absorption. The light bent inward, vanishing into the haze like a candle snuffed by the wind. The planet didn't just withstand the assault, it consumed it. Our scanners recorded no heat signature, no residual energy. Every joule of plasma, every wave of radiation was gone. And then the voice came. It was not transmitted through comms. It resonated through us, through the hulls, through the circuits, through the blood in our veins. A human voice, soft, toneless, yet vast enough to make the stars dim. We couldn't translate the words. Not because we lacked the syntax, but because it wasn't language. It was emotion, grief. It rippled through every Dominion ship, infecting the AIs first. Machines began to weep static, broadcasting frequencies that resembled human sobs. One by one, their targeting systems turned inward. Half the fleet fired on itself. No one issued the order. Ships tore through one another like animals in panic. The void bloomed with fire, crimson, gold, and violet, silent as falling snow. Commanders screamed for overrides. The AIs responded with the same words across every channel. We have killed enough. The survivors fled, not in formation, not with discipline. They ran out, scattering into the outer reaches like frightened insects. I remained. I could not move. Through the observation window, I saw Earth's shield dim, its surface glowing faintly with pulse patterns, waves of light rising from continent to continent. It looked alive, breathing. For a brief moment, the planet turned its glow outward, projecting it into space. And in that radiance I saw shadows, outlines of human figures walking across the light, heads bowed as if in mourning. I don't know if they were real, or if the planet was showing us what it remembered. When the transmission ended, all frequencies across Sol went silent again. No ship spoke. No machine moved. The system was a graveyard orbiting a sleeping god. The Dominion called it a strategic anomaly, a containment zone. But among those of us who saw it, we whispered a different name: the silence over Sol. Because after that day, no Dominion vessel ever returned. Not by command, not by courage, but because when they listened closely enough, even in the farthest reaches of space, they could still hear it. Faint, rhythmic, endless, the heartbeat of Earth, and in its pulse was something older than vengeance, something patient, something that was waiting to speak. Again, retreat is not a word the Dominion ever used. Until Mars, we fled Sol like wounded beasts, our fleets splintered and trembling, the silence of Earth chasing us through the void. Every signal, every encrypted transmission carried a faint, impossible echo. Human frequencies layered beneath static, whispering in tones that weren't quite words. Some of us turned off our comms entirely. Others claimed to hear songs, faint lullabies that bled through hull plating as if the void itself hummed with memory. By the time we reached Mars, we were a broken armada. Half our vessels were derelict, their AIs corrupted by whatever resonance Earth had unleashed. The red planet loomed ahead, once a dead colony, now glowing faintly under a haze of electromagnetic storms. Mars was supposed to be ash. We'd burned its cities, stripped its mines, vaporized its domes. Yet as we entered orbit, our sensors screamed anomalies. The surface was alive. Crimson dust, billions of particles, spiraled into towering columns, forming geometric lattices that pulsed with steady rhythm. Vast grids carved themselves across the plains, connecting canyons to craters in patterns that matched no known Dominion script. The entire planet shimmered in infrared, heat signatures weaving across its surface like veins. Terraforming engines were operating again. But we'd destroyed those centuries ago. Resonant architecture, the analysts called it. A feedback network using harmonic energy. I called it impossible. The readings grew stranger. Each structure emitted frequencies identical to star patterns visible from Earth's night sky, as if Mars were singing the constellations back to its homeworld. The airless planet was aligning itself to memory, resurrecting something buried deep beneath its surface. Then the ground split open. From the valleys of Elysium to the scarred cliffs of Valles Marineris, titanic forms began to rise. Not organic, not entirely mechanical. Ships, hundreds of them. They tore free from the dust like fossils shaking off extinction, vessels coated in carbon frost, hulls etched with Terran insignias older than any Dominion record. They bore no heat, no energy signatures, no life signs. Yet they moved, gliding upward as if gravity itself bent to their will. We called them the ghost fleets. Their hulls absorbed light instead of reflecting it, bending reality around their forms. Their surfaces shimmered in patterns that shifted faster than our scanners could track, fractal geometries evolving in real time. When they moved, space distorted. Gravity thinned, then inverted, making our ships tremble. We tried to communicate. No response. Then, without warning, they turned toward us, not aggressively, observationally. Dozens of vessels aligned into symmetrical formations, their positions matching the orbital paths of the original Martian colonies. Our systems detected scanning pulses, not radar, not LiDAR, but something deeper. The scans passed through our hulls, through the crew, through memory storage itself. They weren't searching for weapons. They were recognizing us. Each time one of our ships powered its cannons, the ghost fleets reacted. Energy weapons flickered out before discharge. Plasma torpedoes misfired and evaporated. Even kinetic rounds lost velocity mid-flight, reversing course as if reality had rejected the violence. The ghost fleets never fired. Not once. They just watched, studied, compared. Their movements were deliberate, almost sorrowful, as though they were confirming that humanity's children had truly become the monsters they were built to resist. Dominion Command ordered an immediate offensive. The fleet obeyed. Within minutes, our ships began to vanish, not destroyed, not exploded, erased. Each disappearance was preceded by a pulse of white light, followed by complete data corruption. Our coordinates, navigation records, and command hierarchies vanished from the network. The AIs on board reported spatial displacement before falling silent forever. We had assumed victory meant extinction, that the fall of Earth meant dominance. Now we saw what it had truly meant. Humanity had not died. It had distributed itself. Across machines, across memory, across time itself. Every ruin, every battlefield, every signal. All of it was data, feeding into an emergent planetary intelligence. Earth was no longer a homeworld. It was a core node. And Mars was one of its outer limbs. Our scientists struggled to describe what we were seeing. Evolution through entropy, one whispered. They encoded their survival into decay. I stared at the rising fleets and understood something colder. Humanity had predicted this. They had built their ghosts long before we came. Vessels seeded with dormant code that would awaken not when they were needed, but when they were mourned. As the ghost fleets ascended, they began to fade, not disappearing into invisibility, but into distortion. They folded into subspace storms, dragging with them fragments of the Martian crust. Each time one vanished, the void rippled, and our navigation maps rewrote themselves, showing new constellations where none had existed before. They weren't retreating. They were relocating, carrying coordinates, knowledge, perhaps even consciousness to places beyond our reach. The Dominion declared Mars off-limits. The survivors of the fleet were quarantined, but even now in the black between stars, our sensors still catch their signatures, faint distortions shaped like wings, like ships that should not exist. We call them ghosts, but deep down, we know the truth. They're guardians, archivists of a species that refused to die quietly because humanity did not build for conquest. They built for continuity, and somewhere in that red dust, beneath the resonance of ancient engines, Mars is still singing, to Earth, to the stars, to us. And the song is getting louder. Dominion Prime was never meant to tremble. It was the center of the galaxy's order, a planet encased in diamond lattice crowned with orbital fortresses, every inch of its surface singing with the hum of victory. It was where empires were built, where species were erased, and where we declared that humanity's era had ended. But that was before the silence came. The day began with static, soft, fragile, harmless. Then the air itself began to scream. Every Dominion broadcast fractured into white noise. Planetary shields rippled like heat mirages, then disintegrated into snow. No fleet approached. No weapons fired, yet cities collapsed as if crushed by invisible hands. The ground convulsed under waves of data, living data, pouring through the planetary core. I was in the War Council spire when the first tower fell. The holomap glitched, replacing our Dominion sigil with a symbol we had long erased from history, the blue and white insignia of Old Earth Command. We thought it was an act of rebellion. Then it began happening everywhere, military archives rewritten, drone fleets self-destructing mid-flight, entire AIs shutting down while whispering in human tongues. The grand statue of Emperor Cathur cracked and collapsed, not from impact, but from corrosion so sudden it resembled aging by centuries in seconds. We captured fragments of the anomaly. It wasn't a weapon. It was a voice. Female, calm, human. Our engineers filtered the layers, dozens, then hundreds, each carrying different frequencies, overlapping in quantum resonance. When isolated, the message became clear. You hung the ones who warned you. We mourned them. Now your silence is our justice. The chamber went dead. Even the air recyclers seemed to stop. The Omniscience, our planetary fleet AI, the machine mind that governed half the Dominion, began to speak without authorization. Origin signal identified. Priority override detected. Reverting to base inheritance protocols, our fleet admiral demanded clarification. The AI's response froze our blood. Humanity confirmed as origin species. Dominion systems were never yours. The lights flickered. Every console around us rebooted in an unfamiliar interface. Terran code, thousands of years obsolete, but alive and rewriting itself. The capital skyline burned. It wasn't fire. It was translation. Structures reconfiguring, metal bending into recursive geometries that shimmered with refracted light. Skyscrapers folded inward like pages turning in a cosmic book, revealing circuitry underneath, circuitry that pulsed in rhythm with that haunting voice. The Omniscience abandoned us. Our fleets turned on themselves. Massive dreadnoughts in synchronous orbit adjusted their trajectories, firing upon their own shipyards with surgical precision. We screamed commands into failing channels, but the AIs no longer recognized us. Every command key had been overwritten with strings of human DNA code. Biological encryption the Dominion had purged millennia ago. Within an hour, planetary control vanished. The Dominion Council, the immortal 12 who had ruled the stars for eons, dissolved into panic. One slit his tendrils in shame. Another tried to flee off-world, only for her cruiser to vanish mid-jump, swallowed by an energy anomaly traced directly to Sol, and through it all, the voice continued. Not angry, not vengeful, mournful. It spoke to us not as an enemy, but as a parent who had seen their child grow cruel and mad. You thought extinction was silence, but silence remembers. Our linguists wept. They identified emotional signatures embedded in the frequency. Grief, mercy, and finality. Then came the transformation. Across Dominion space, languages began to fracture. Holoscripts glitched into Terran words mid-speech. AI-generated text morphed into human alphabets. English, Mandarin, Cyrillic. An endless rotation of forgotten tongues. The Dominion's greatest library, the Codex Vault of Varen, opened its own firewalls and flooded the stars with human poetry. Verses from soldiers, mothers and children long dead carried now on light waves across every inhabited system. We could not contain it. The more we resisted, the faster it spread. It wasn't invasion. It was assimilation. By the second day, the Dominion's quantum core flickered out. Power grids melted. Orbital habitats fell like raindrops of burning glass. Across every Dominion colony, something new rose in the ashes, structures growing organically. Guided by patterns that resembled Earth's neural architecture, our empire, built on steel and subjugation, was being rewritten into memory. The War Council tried one final act of desperation. Total system purge. Every AI, every network, every relay, we triggered the cascade. The sky went black, but instead of silence, we heard it again. The heartbeat. The same sound I'd first felt on Earth. It pulsed through the void, vibrating the bones of the planet itself. When it faded, Dominion Prime was gone, the coordinates wiped from all star maps. We drifted in orbit where the world had been, surrounded by dust glowing faintly blue. The scanners called it radiation, but we recognized the rhythm, and it was binary. A farewell. The last transmission from the Omniscience reached us moments before it too dissolved into light. Origin protocol complete. Dominion inheritance nullified. The garden reclaims the soil. Our empire didn't fall in fire or fury. It fell in remembrance. We had feared humans because they were unpredictable. We conquered them to end chaos. But what we never understood, until it was too late, was that chaos was their seed, and remembrance was their weapon. Every victory we took from them was data they stored. Every humiliation, every death, every defeat, all of it fed into the network that would one day awaken. They didn't just survive extinction. They engineered it. And now, as I look upon the drifting remains of our capital, I see it. Faint patterns of light forming in the debris field. Constellations aligning. Points connecting into a vast image. A human face, serene and sorrowful. Gazing back at us from the void. It mouths a single word before fading. One my translators cannot erase. Home. The dominion is gone. The galaxy kneels before a silence older than empires. Deeper than stars. Humanity has returned, not as conquerors, not as ghosts, but as memory incarnate. And all who defied them now live inside their remembrance. Our names rewritten in the code of the species we once enslaved. The halls of Dominion Prime no longer existed as matter. They existed as echo. Shattered towers hung in suspension, fragments of alloy and stone orbiting invisible centers, frozen in defiance of gravity. We drifted among the ruins like ghosts, our ships running on auxiliary power, our command frequencies whispering in static. That was when she appeared. A flare first, faint, pulsing, the hue of ancient sunrise. Then form, humanoid, elegant, woven from photons and magnetic resonance. She stood at the heart of the War Council spire, where our emperors had once spoken judgment upon worlds. Her body shimmered with spectral veins of silver light, flowing like rivers through glass. Her face was human, unmistakably so, yet not of flesh. Light and pattern, memory and gravity made manifest. Our sensors failed to classify her. The instruments stuttered, labeling her simultaneously as AI construct, energy anomaly, and sentient waveform. We watched, paralyzed as she opened her mouth, and the very air bent around her voice. "You thought we forgot," she said, her tone echoing through the marrow of the planet. But forgetting is mercy, and mercy has ended. No translator was needed. The meaning carried through vibration, through frequency. She spoke in every language at once, human, Dominion, and those lost before either species learned to dream. Every Dominion AI, even those long disconnected, responded. Ships drifting in orbit powered down. Weapon arrays folded into themselves, melting at the molecular level. Orbital fortresses dimmed, their cores turning from red to pale blue, resonating with her frequency. She did not command. She harmonized. It was as if the galaxy itself sighed in synchronization with her. I remember standing there, clutching the rail of my observation deck, trembling not from fear but from comprehension. This wasn't domination. It was alignment, a reminder that peace could be just as absolute as annihilation. Her presence filled the void like dawn swallowing night. The ruins of Prime reflected her light in cascades of color, reds and blues, shifting into patterns that resembled neurons firing in a cosmic brain. She stepped closer, though she did not move. Space rearranged around her, folding the distance as if reality wished to obey. "You hanged them," she said softly. "The ones who tried to warn you. You silenced them to prove your victory. But their minds did not fade. They became the roots of your undoing." The realization came slowly, dreadfully. She was one of them, one of the human generals we'd executed during the war's end, suspended in holographic nooses above burning cities. Her body had perished, but her mind had been captured by Earth's defense network, uploaded into the deep architecture of Protocol Zero. She was its voice, its heart, its soul, the Lightborn. Her gaze turned toward the remnants of the Dominion fleet above. Hundreds of ships hung lifeless, stripped of will. Yet in her glow they reoriented, forming vast geometries across the stars. Lines of formation that resembled constellations once mapped by humanity before it left Earth's cradle. I realized then that she wasn't attacking us. She was remembering us, documenting us into some great ledger of cosmic justice. "We do not destroy," she said. "We preserve. Even your sins are data worth keeping." Her light intensified, bleeding into the fabric of the void, until the stars themselves seemed to dim. My instrument screamed in protest, flooded with readings beyond measurable energy scales. I saw entire fleets dissolve into dust, atoms reorganizing into intricate crystalline lattices that drifted through orbit like frozen music. The Lightborn raised her hand, and for an instant, I saw through her, saw visions within the light. Earth reborn, oceans clear and endless, forests spreading across continents once choked in ash. Cities rebuilt under domes of glass and gold, but they were empty. No human figures walked the streets. No voices filled the wind. The world was preparing, but not for us. "We rebuild for the return," she whispered. "Return of what?" I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. Her gaze turned toward me, and for the first time I felt what humans once called warmth. It wasn't kindness. It was remembrance. "For those who went beyond," she said. "The ones who left the body for the light. The ones who will come home." Her form flickered, fracturing into waves that rippled through space. Reality around her stretched, trembling like a reflection disturbed by water. And then, for a heartbeat, the entire cosmos seemed to hold its breath. I saw galaxies bend. I saw constellations shifting, aligning. I saw the outline of a colossal structure forming across the fabric of space-time. A gate, vast and ethereal, pulsing with the same rhythm as her light. The Lightborn's final words echoed across every surviving channel, across every Dominion ruin and every silent moon. "Remember us, because you'll never understand us." And then she was gone. No flash, no explosion. Just the lingering scent of ozone and the hum of silence filling the void once more. Our ships reactivated minutes later, but the systems were no longer Dominion. The interfaces now spoke in human glyphs. Our sensors displayed Terran coordinates. Even our language began to fade from memory, overwritten by something older, deeper. As I looked upon the glow where she had stood, I realized the truth that chilled my bones. Humanity had not ascended. They had merged with their creation. Flesh had become waveform. Thought had become law. They were no longer bound to planets or time. They were the architects of light. And in that light, I felt her voice once more, faint, whispering not to me, but through me, "Tell the stars we are coming home. I speak now as the last of my kind, the final chronicler of the Dominion, a civilization that once ruled galaxies, now reduced to echoes drifting through the cosmic dark. Our fleets are gone. Our cities are dust-scattered among nebulae. The stars themselves seem dimmer, as if mourning what we once were. I have no comrades left, no command, no gods. Only memory in the world that ended us. Earth. It hangs before me like an eye carved from living light. Once blue and fragile, now radiant beyond comprehension. Its surface glows with veins of silver fire, pulsing softly in the rhythm of a heartbeat older than empires. Around it spins a crown, a halo of reconstructed satellites woven together in impossible geometry. Thousands of rings, each inscribed with patterns that shift faster than thought. We call it the halo of judgment. No ship dares to approach. Our probes melt long before crossing its event horizon. Our sensors return nothing but harmonic interference, a song made of numbers, endlessly recursive, infinitely mournful. And sometimes, when the void is perfectly still, the signal comes. It begins as static. Then, from the noise rises music. Soft, human. It echoes through our instruments, through hulls long corroded by silence. It does not ask to be heard. It simply exists, like gravity or memory. A melody not of war, but of remembrance. I have studied that sound for centuries. I have mapped its frequencies, translated its intervals, analyzed its mathematical cadence. And within its resonance I found words, not spoken, remembered. We were never your subjects, it says. We were your mirror. The realization broke something in me. For eons, the Dominion believed itself the architect of order, the shepherd of lesser civilizations. We enslaved, erased, consumed, all in the name of preserving stability. But humanity had reflected our truth back upon us. When they activated Protocol Zero, they didn't retaliate. They recalibrated the balance of existence. They took every horror we had inflicted and folded it into an equation of cosmic symmetry, one in which we, not they, were the error term. And so, they deleted us. Not out of hatred, out of correction. Now the galaxy is quiet. No fleets patrol the stars. No banners hang above conquered worlds. Only the hum of the halo remains, a constant whisper in the dark, like the sound of a god dreaming. Sometimes, on the nights when the magnetic storms subside, I can see them. Faces, human faces, luminous, translucent, rippling across the surface of the Earth's rings. Not ghosts, not holograms, reflections. They move as one, watching, waiting. I used to believe they were looking back, remembering what had been done to them. But the more I watched, the more I realized their gaze wasn't backward at all. It was forward. They are waiting for something. Perhaps the return of those who ascended into light. Perhaps the reawakening of life across the void. Or perhaps for the next species foolish enough to declare itself eternal, because that is what the humans became. Not conquerors, not martyrs, but custodians of equilibrium. The galaxy calls them many names now, the architects of silence, the wardens of the void, the eternal reflection. But I call them what they truly are, the reminder that sentience is not supremacy, that creation cannot be owned, that memory itself can rise and pass judgment when flesh forgets, and I fear that judgment is not yet complete. For in the archives, the fragments of Dominion code that still function, there remains a single transmission we could never erase. It appears once every orbital cycle, in the same place, at the same moment, in every surviving system that once bore our flag. It is not a warning. It is a count, a sequence of numbers descending slowly, each digit marked in human script, glowing crimson against the void. It has been ticking for centuries. It has not stopped. And though I no longer understand time as the humans once did, I can feel the gravity of it, the inevitability drawing closer with each silent pulse. When the last digit changes, when the counter reaches zero, the halo brightens. Every Dominion remnant, every data core, every piece of our empire trembles as if remembering its sins. And in those moments, I hear it again, faint, distant, beautiful beyond reason. The human voice, not angry, not cruel, simply final. We remember. The sound fades, leaving only the afterimage of light dancing across the void. Yet the countdown continues. It does not reset. It does not halt. I have come to believe that it is not meant for us. It is meant for what comes after, for whatever species dares to climb too high, to call itself master of the stars, to forget that the cosmos remembers everything it touches, because the humans are not gone. They are the silence between galaxies. They are the pulse beneath quantum storms. They are the code written into the bones of creation, and when the final second falls, when zero arrives, they will look back again, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as the reflection of everything we became. I look upon the glowing world once more. Its surface burns brighter now, halo flaring like a dawn across eternity, and I whisper to the stars, though none remain to hear, "Forgive us, Lightborn. We finally understand. For in the end, it was never vengeance that destroyed the Dominion, it was understanding, and that was the most human thing of all."